Are you tired of high-pressure tactics?
No, I'm not going to sign that. It's too much.
At Community Auto Group, you'll find we have a straightforward approach.
If other dealers have made you uncomfortable, give Community a try. You'll enjoy your experience here and find a straightforward deal that's right for you, not high-pressure tactics.
Community Auto Group, straightforward deals from the straightforward dealer.
Okay, I'd like to call to order the June 6th, 2013 meeting of the Human Rights Commission for Mason City, and I'd like to welcome everybody. It's good to see all 9 commissioners present this noon. And I'd like to start with welcoming back and introducing Dan Raymaker. Dan, would you please stand?
Yeah.
Dan is a former friend of the commission and contacted us and said he was willing to help serve again, and so we're glad to have you of service to the Mason City Human Rights Commission. So I understand you can't be here long, but if there's something you'd like to say by way of introduction.
No, I'm just glad to be back. It's a passion of mine. It's part of what I teach with government, and same way with criminology. I've made use of the laws many times, and I think that protecting them and safeguarding them is tantamount to our system of government.
Good, thank you very much. And then by way of welcome also, before we have the roll call, I'd like to welcome our newest commissioner, Mark Stanton, to the commission. We're glad to have you on board, and really happy that we got such a quick confirmation by City Council on your appointment. Mark and I have known each other quite a few years, and
Absolutely.
so
A lot of friends around the table.
a lot of friends around the table, right? Okay, with that, let's then go ahead with the roll call, starting with our newest commissioner. State your name and present for the record.
Mark Stanton,
Present.
present.
Joy Van Zomeren, present.
Brian McNamara, present.
Steve Palmer, present.
Dean Gant, present.
Jackie Huseman, present.
Karen Reese, present.
Colleen Devine, present.
Matt Dodge, present.
Okay, that takes us to the adoption of the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to move the adoption of the amended agenda that was posted yesterday. Except for one minor change, I would like to move the action items.
I have a point of order on that. So,
I think I had the floor, sir. I was making the motion.
well, I'm not recognizing that item because I have a comment to make about the agenda process. We had an occurrence here before today's meeting whereby we had commissioners posting an alternate agenda. And so I consulted Robert Rules, which we just recently adopted based on Commissioner Palmer and Commissioner McNamara's work in that regard. And an agenda is not approved until we adopt it at the meeting. So when an agenda is put out by the chair, that becomes the order of business, and then we can adopt that agenda or amend it and add to it. So the way we've always operated is we're happy to, as we come to this point in the meeting, add whatever items you have that you want to add on, and I think we've always gladly added those items on. So there's no issue regarding that.
Then I continue my motion. I would like to offer a motion to adopt the amended agenda as a working agenda for today's meeting, and I would like to move the action items up after approval of minutes and move the non-action items down below the action items.
I think there's a problem with that, because I think one of the most important things in the non-action items is the report and going over Amy's performance evaluation, and those come first. And I think we need to show our support for our staff person, Amy, and that we keep that at the top of the agenda.
Amy wasn't put it out, it was the
No,
director.
it's my evaluation.
No, I know that's the one item too, but an item I wanted to add today too was the Amy's.
And my motion stands as presented.
I'll second
Is there a second? Seconded by Commissioner Dodge. Discussion?
Can I make a comment, is it appropriate? I just want to cite from the Robert's Rules about the agenda. It says the agenda provided in advance for information. In some organizations, it is customary to send each member in advance of a meeting an order of business or agenda with some indication of the matters to be considered under each heading. Such an agenda is often provided for information only, with no intention or practice of submitting it for adoption. Now, it's adopted when it comes to the table at the beginning of the meeting, and it can, as we have talked about, be amended. So all of the conflict and all of the hostility that I've been experiencing as it relates to this agenda, I think is unnecessary. We don't put that agenda out there as a rock-solid issue. It comes before the commission, before the, for the adoption of it or the amendments that are gonna go into it. So I hope that's clear. In other words, they're not locked in stone when you folks see them out there on the internet, or that you get copies of them. Thank you.
I guess I have a question on the approach then, not to prolong the topic, but if I have a recommended item for the agenda, how do I get that on the agenda, even the preliminary agenda?
Well, the rules of conduct that Commissioner McNamara brought forth and we passed was that all communications regarding anything business related to the commission was to come to the chair.
And I believe there was a request to you
From Commissioner Palmer via email, and I included 3 of those 5 items as actionable items in what was posted by Amy as our order of business, and the other 2 items were non-actionable because they were coming as a part of the chair's report.
Okay. That was my question, if that was.
So all of
appropriate way or
Commissioner
not.
Palmer's items that he sent to me by email are covered under the agenda that Amy first sent out. And then we had Commissioner Palmer come, or Commissioner Palmer came, I think, to Lionel's office, and then subsequently Commissioner McNamara posted an amended agenda here at the city building, and was brought up at 3 minutes till 12 to Amy's office by Brent Trapp.
That answers my question, thank you.
I would like to make a point of order here, Mr. Chairman, if I
Okay.
may. I believe anything that is not an action item on the agenda violates the open meetings law. We want those items to be action items. You put them as non-action items. That's why we need to amend this agenda and accept the amended agenda that was posted yesterday, because they are action items. And I understand what you're saying too, Lionel, but if these are not listed as action items, I don't believe that we can legally take action on them today, and we want to take this action today. So that's why it was important to amend this agenda yesterday, so it was posted 24 hours ahead of time.
Okay.
That's all I had.
So can we have, to resolve this, well, first of all, we have a motion on the floor. So I guess we need to take a vote. I would just like to say, I would like to see us take Commissioner Palmer's actionable items that he wants added as actionable items, added on, but leave the rest of the agenda in the order that it was presented originally.
And I guess the motion on the floor does not do that. So unless this motion fails, then you can make your motion, Mr. Chair.
Can I
Okay.
ask for some clarification?
Right.
You're asking for a change yet to the amended one? Do I
No, well,
understand
the
that?
only change coming is because it is a little bit of a long agenda and we have no way here to limit discussion. Discussion sometimes gets long. The action items I'm requesting get moved up so we take care of those before we lose our quorum. That's my point.
Before we go to the non-action.
Yeah,
items.
exactly.
So you're basically just switching 6 and 5?
Just move, yeah,
Is
just
what you're
moved,
asking.
exactly,
Okay.
exactly. I should have made that a little plainer, I apologize.
Okay. But, okay. So you are recommending as part of your motion then that we reverse 6 and 5?
Yes.
I know.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Palmer, seconded by Commissioner Dodge, that we accept the amended agenda as presented. Is that the proper term, I hope? So, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Okay, motion carries. Okay, that takes us to the approval of the minutes, and I would ask that we suspend the reading of those minutes since we have three lengthy transcripts from the three meetings that need to have those minutes approved. We have the transcript from the May 2nd meeting, and the May 6th special meeting, and the May 20th special meeting. So do we have a motion, or do we have a motion to approve those minutes and or any comments or corrections that need to be brought forth? Okay, do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner McNamara. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, minutes have been
Wow.
approved for,
Each one individual, each minute individually.
I'm sorry?
Each
Oh, that's right.
minute
Yeah.
individually.
okay, so can we have a motion to approve the May 2nd regular meeting minutes as presented?
So moved.
Second. Okay, moved by Commissioner Devine and seconded by Commissioner McNamara. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion unanimously carried to accept the minutes from the May 2nd meeting. Now we need a motion to accept the May 6th special meeting minutes.
So moved.
I will second that.
Moved by Commissioner Dodge, seconded by Commissioner Palmer. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion unanimously carried. That takes us to the minutes and transcript from the May 20th special meeting. Do we have a motion to accept those minutes?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Van Zomeren, and a second.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Dodge. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Motion carried, and the minutes are approved for the May 20th meeting as well. Okay, that takes us to the first of the action items. And as your new chair, I would suggest that what we need to do today is to vote on a vice chair, since that position is vacant. And so I would entertain,
I believe the agenda says, Commissioner Gant, that we're electing a new chairman today, not a new vice chair.
but that's not in order, and that's not, the chair is not vacant.
The
and
chair
according-
is vacant, our chair resigned, and you are elected vice chair, not chairman.
No, here, I've got a sheet for everybody, if you'll pass that
Robert's
around.
rules.
Pass this one down. Everybody have one?
Thank you.
So Robert's Rules of Order states on page 458 of the 11th edition of the Robert's Rules of Order, the current version, that in the case of the resignation or death of the president, the vice president, or the first vice president, automatically becomes the president for the unexpired term. And that's what we all agreed unanimously to adopt as the default Robert's Rules of Order. So, as I stated, the chair position is not vacant. We are here then to elect a new vice chair, and I would place a nomination, Colleen Devine, as the new vice chair of the commission. Do you accept the nomination, Commissioner Devine?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Any other nominations from the floor?
I have a question for Commissioner Devine. We have been tasked by the City Council to work with the Iowa Human Rights Commission in an effort to move some or all of the work from this commission to the Iowa Human Rights Commission. What is your stand on that recommendation? How do you feel about that?
Well, if you're referring to the past cases that we've already investigated, I don't agree that those should go to Des Moines because they've already been investigated. It's not a responsible use of the taxpayers' money. First of all, it costs us somewhere in the neighborhood of $30,000, but it also costs all the taxpayers of Iowa to have that work redone by paid staff. So that makes no sense to me. Now, from this point on, yes, of course, we do as much as we can here, and things that we can't handle or overflow or whatever, yes, absolutely, or, you know, that we have a conflict with or something. Of course, and that was my impression all along, was that from that point forward, things should go to Des Moines, as they should, as many as are prudent. But to give away a bunch of money when we've already had our budget cut, and to force the taxpayers of the state of Iowa to pay for a bunch of work being redone that's already done, doesn't seem very fiscally responsible to me.
Okay. Then, as an additional comment, since we're in the discussions phase of Commissioner Devine's nomination as vice chair, I'm going to say that I'm going to oppose her nomination.
Okay. Any other comments?
May I make a comment?
Sure.
I think Commissioner Palmer misstated what that agreement we signed with the Iowa Civil Rights Commission said. It says in there very clearly that this commission is not obligated to send cases to the State Civil Rights Commission. The city council does not have the authority to authorize you to do anything. Now, the original argument was that that was a 2080 agreement, and if you go back and look at the minutes of the city council meeting as it was presented and posted on the agenda, it was not posted as a 28E agreement. It's just a work sharing agreement. But I've informed you folks before, we've had those with the Iowa Civil Rights Commission for a number of years. And so you're not obligated to send anything to them. Beth Townsend sat in this room and said the same thing. You can send them to us, or you don't have to send them to us. You can send us one, or you can send us all of them. And I think John Skipper has written on that on a couple of occasions. So you're not obligated to send the State Commission any cases. Now, if you choose to do so, as Commissioner Devine said, in the future, that's fine. But many of you in this room right now have sat down and fact-found those cases with these individuals. They expect, I would think, that you're going to finish their cases off and get them a decision, not peddle them off to the Iowa Civil Rights Commission so they can start all over again, and you will, in fact, lose $30,000. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
And if I could ask a quick question, wouldn't we be out of time on a bunch of those?
A lot of those would be out of time.
So the effect would be that those cases would just go away.
They could throw them out the window. When they get them down in Des Moines, they can throw them out. So they're untimely, we can't, and they're not gonna pay you for them. Okay, because there's a chart, there's a ranking of the number of days that you have to file across Iowa, so they get your $100. And from $100, it drops down to $0. And so they very well could come back and say, you're not gonna get a dime out of these cases because they've been around too long.
I have a question about the cases, because I'm very confused. On May 2nd, we were told that there were 55 open cases, according to the minutes. On May 31st, we received an email that said that there were 58, I'm sorry. Then it went to 55 on May 31st. And then on June 4th, we're down to 11. So in the 2 days, we closed 44 cases?
No, you're misreading it.
That's not part of this
Totally
discussion. We're on Colleen's nomination for
Okay.
vice chair, so let's
I'll
hold that
wait.
for later. I thought we covered that on the phone the other day as well, but,
I didn't speak.
pardon?
You discussed it on the phone with me?
We had an email from you about that, and I thought we covered that because I was up here and the staff, the three of us worked on answering the questions.
I'll gladly discuss it later. I'm confused.
So, back to the matter at hand, and Mr. Palmer is part of that discussion, I think comes under another actionable item as well, so there'll be plenty of time to cover that further. Commissioner Palmer, as we go down the agenda that we've adopted. And I would just like to say that, I think that, sitting around this table, Ms. Devine is one of our most senior people on this commission. She's given a lot of years of service, and I think she's very knowledgeable, and so I think she deserves our respect and our support for the vice chair position. So with that, I'm ready to call the question. All in favor of Colleen Devine then as serving as the vice chair of the Mason City Human Rights Commission, say aye. Aye.
As you might guess, I'm
Opposed?
abstaining.
Aye.
So-
Okay, having heard the motion fail, I would
I
like.
haven't announced that the motion is failed.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair.
I'm going to call for a division of the House and ask for a show of hands, since the ayes were kind of weakly stated. So all in favor of Commissioner Devine serving as vice chair of the Mason City Human Rights Commission, would you raise your right hand? Those opposed? Okay. Motion fails. Do we have then another nomination for the position of vice chair?
Yes, I would like to nominate Brian McNamara as vice chair.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, then let's go ahead and I'll call for the vote. All in favor of Commissioner McNamara as vice chair, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
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 So we better do a division of the floor again so we can get an exact count. So all in favor of Commissioner McNamara as vice chair, raise your right hand. Opposed? Motion fails for Commissioner McNamara. And we have one abstention. Two abstentions. So it was 3-4, 3 in favor, 4 against, and 2 abstentions. Commissioner Huesman, did you want to be recognized? Oh, no. Given then we've had 2 candidates fail, I would move then that we ask Commissioner Huesman if she would serve as vice chair of the commission.
With my job, I would not be able to serve the commission like I should, so I have to say no.
Is Mr. Ray Maytime commissioner?
No.
No.
It's for the commission.
It wasn't on the agenda for this conversation or decision. Is it something that could be tabled, or does it have to be filled today?
Well, I think given the load of work that we've got still to keep dogging, we really need the vice chair position filled.
Mr. Chair, could I make a recommendation?
Sure.
Maybe you should, if you want to, just establish a nomination committee and let them work it out for the next meeting.
Steve?
Pardon?
Anyone interested?
No, I'm afraid that at this time I'm not able to serve as vice chair. I guess, if that were the will of the commission, I guess I would actually be willing to serve as vice chair. But I think the idea that Director Foster has is a good one to select a committee. And if there's people that are willing to serve on that committee, that's a better approach.
Will that committee not just reach out to one of us?
But it's a little bit more or less of a pressure type of a situation. That's the only thing I can see, Mark. And maybe it relieves a little pressure for today, and we have other agenda items today, so.
So could we have a committee of 3? Oh, go ahead, Commissioner Stanton.
I was just going to say, for the 45 seconds that it would take, I would nominate Steve as vice chair.
Second.
Sorry.
Okay, we have a new nomination on the floor for Mr. Palmer as vice chair. Do we have any further discussion? Okay. Seeing no further discussion, then I'll call the question, and I think since we've had 2 divided votes in a row, let's take a raise of hand vote if that's acceptable to the body. So we have Commissioner Palmer's nomination on the floor as vice chair. All in favor, raise your right hand. Okay, motion is carried. Commissioner Palmer is our new vice chair.
Thank you.
Does the Friends get to talk at all? I mean, just make a comment and then be done?
Not at the present time.
Okay, just asking.
Okay, that takes us to item B under action items.
I would make a motion that we direct the Human Resources Director at the city to give Director Foster 2 weeks' notice and set his final day as June 30th. And that we would also direct the Personnel Department to pay Director Foster his accrued vacation, and I think we all have seen the numbers on that.
My question would be, do we have the power to dictate to the Human Resource Director of the city in that regard?
They're taking care of human resources for the Human Rights Commission, Commissioner Gantz, so I'm sure that is true. They have put together that package, and it was their recommendation. I think we've all seen that we give the director 2 weeks' notice. This is an at-will state, and we owe him the 2 weeks' notice, even though he knows what the time schedule is. That's the appropriate way to do this.
Okay, Director Foster, do you have a comment?
Yes, I have a comment concerning the 2 week notice. 2 week notice would give me until June the 20th, which would be 10 days or so short of my salary expiring.
And that was not the intent.
Okay, well, I appreciate it.
Yeah, okay, well, I'll try to make the motion clear then. I would, that the Personnel Department needs to give the director 2 weeks' notice prior to June 30th, which would be his last day. I think since I stated your last day, that covers it, but we'll see if we can put it in a little better terms here. And that they be directed to pay his approved vacation at the time of his departure.
One more comment concerning the at-will. I think you're getting some wrong information on it, Will. At the last meeting, I believe it was, Commissioner Devine had talked with, the city attorney was here, and talked with the city attorney and asked about the liability issue as it relates to my termination, and he said, in essence, that I should seek my own legal advice. So I did. The attorney that I talked with said, and I wrote this down, that the 15 days, in the attorney's opinion, I know it adds insult to injury, but don't get upset about it. Mr. Bookmeyers apparently has been unaware of the limitation on employment at will by the Iowa and federal civil rights acts. So I'm not an employee at will as it relates to the federal and state civil rights statute.
Who is that signed by?
It's not signed by anybody.
What document is that?
That's a note I wrote now.
Oh,
Yeah.
but the reading you just read, that's a quote from what?
That's a quote from an attorney that I visited with.
Okay.
Well, I think that at least it's possible that the the personnel department here is in error, but they are the ones that suggested the 2-week notice, so I'm thinking that that's what we should do.
Well, why do we do this? I appreciate it if you just say my last day of employment will be June 30th and let it go at that, and I have no problem.
Okay.
And I have no problem with your discussion about having the finance department get all that money together so I can have a check.
Okay, I guess that is probably the right way to do this motion anyway, because they should know what's proper procedure. So I will, I will amend my motion to simply say that Director Foster's last day would be June 30th, and that he would be paid whatever accrued vacation he is due at that time. Does that work for you? Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other discussion? So we have the motion. Did we have a second? Seconded by Commissioner McNamara. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Okay, that takes us to item C, authorization of funds for a celebration of service event on June 28th, 2013 to honor the director's many years of service.
If I may ask one quick question.
Sure.
Do you want a celebration?
Well, let me explain this. I was baffled when I heard that the city's been doing this for employees who leave here. And so I checked around, well, they've been doing it for employees who leave here on retirement. And I think the library or art museum is gonna have an employee who's gonna be leaving there, who's been here 12 years. I don't know under what circumstances. But I'm not retired. I'm not retired. My job has been eliminated and I'm not retired. So, in that context, no, I wouldn't care for it. I'm not interested.
My feeling as your chair is that, you know, we have committed to the community that we're trying to tighten our belts and conserve every penny that we can for helping this commission to find a path forward and to protect our full-time staff person's position, and that we have those dollars available. You know, I'm going to talk further when we get to the item about that, about the work I've done in the past several weeks to, you know, try to get that accomplished, along with the director's help in getting the ruling from HUD out of Washington, D.C. So, but I think it would be foolish for us to allow the citizens of Mason City to see us spending money in that regard. I think we'd be better served if we make a statement and say, you know, in light of the extreme budget cuts, with Mr. Foster's acceptance and willingness to not have a party, we're going to save those funds, both on behalf of the city, since they've had to make some egregious cuts across their budget, and I think shows good faith on our part that we're not spending taxpayer dollars.
Well, I think we're assuming here that we were planning on spending taxpayer dollars, and my intention was to do this with donations. But Director Foster has said that he is not interested in a party, but I'd already contacted some people about donating money to this.
Well, I appreciate
and so
that.
we want to somehow acknowledge his excellent years of service and the service to the community. But if that party is not the way, then maybe we will do it some other way.
Excuse me, may I suggest an alternative?
Sure.
What we've done with other commissioners who, you know, left or were not reappointed or retired or whatever, was to give them a plaque.
Right,
And
good idea.
I haven't been in your house, but I'm sure there's space on your wall at home for that, isn't there?
I got them all in.
You got them all in there, okay. So, given that that's been our practice, I guess I would suggest that.
But as long as Lionel has been here, he's been part of the building. You've been here so many years, and I think that it would only be fair for us to have a coffee for him so that all the employees could at least, you know, bid. You've done such a great job. It would be a shame not to be able to have a coffee, and I would pay for that myself.
And
I'll buy you a cake.
That's where I'm at.
Yeah,
I think
that's
we
where
need to
I'm
do
at.
I
that.
mean, you're like, you've done this, and there's a lot of people that would love to shake your hand, and
I don't
if
think you
would
have anything to
accept
say
it-
about it. I think that's what we need to do.
Celebration's more about the people that want to honor you than it is
Wanna
about.
just say thank you.
And that's my problem with it, because there's too many people out there, and there's people on the city council who would love to come here and say, we finally got rid of the SOB.
Amen.
Sure.
Amen.
And I'm not interested in that sort of.
Amen.
Now, if they want to beat me out to
Amen.
Papa's, I'll buy them a drink.
I
You mean
agree.
I gotta bring my cake and
I
coffee
make a
out to
motion.
Papa's?
You know, I think Lionel, the best thing we can do for Lionel is to listen to what he
Honor
just
his
said.
Exactly.
And
Yep.
honor his wishes.
Yep.
And I just appreciate the frankness so much that Lionel coming from. So my motion is to honor his.
Well, we first have,
Oh, I'm
I
sorry.
guess that's a comment
You're
on
right.
Commissioner Palmer's motion, so.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
So do you want to amend your motion, given the discussion? Or do you want us to go ahead and call the question as it was presented?
Well, you could withdraw.
Yeah, I'll just withdraw.
I'm going to withdraw. Okay, then Commissioner Huesman?
I make the motion to honor Lionel's wishes and not have a celebration, coffee, anything.
Mhm.
How about the plaque?
Do we need another motion for a plaque?
Probably.
I move that we have has been the practice in the past, that we commission a plaque to be created and basically say
Okay.
what we've been discussing.
So that would be an amendment to Commissioner Huesman's motion that we do a plaque instead.
I'll
Is there a
second.
second for that?
I'll second.
Commissioner Dodge seconds the amendment. All in favor of the amendment to do a plaque instead of something more grand? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Amendment passes unanimously to do the plaque. Now we go to Commissioner Huesman's original motion, which is to honor Director Foster's wishes that a party and expenses for that not be made. So, does everybody understand that motion as amended? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Okay, that takes us to D on the actionable items, which is determination of sending cases to ICRC before June 28th for reimbursement. And I guess I would need to interject here, since we've changed the order of the agenda a bit. Part of my report was going to address that item, and that's that one thing that has been done since our last meeting was I had queries from the press about, and from Mayor Bookmeyer, about this item. And so abiding by Commissioner Palmer and Commissioner McNamara's request, I think you were two commissioners that were adamant about communications going from the chair to the media. We came out with the press release announcing that Lionel and I had gotten word from HUD in Washington, D.C. that we had discretionary use of those monies that are still available. So then, given that, we reviewed the document that we signed and was also signed by the mayor and the city council, that is the agreement with the Iowa Civil Rights Commission. And in that agreement, it states that we as a commission can send no cases to Des Moines, some of the cases, or all of the cases that we do intake on. So we are going to be reliant upon Amy as our intake person to determine the viability of handling them here in-house, or whether it's a case that we need to, given our limited staffing, send on down to the Iowa Civil Rights Commission. I've been working hard with Amy on a day-to-day basis, kind of figuring out where we're at with the cases and why or when we would need to send cases down. And I thought we've had a pretty good plan in place, and we've been reporting, and I think Commissioner Dodge sent some questions to Lionel that I was here and working with and reviewing. And you know, we've spent a lot of time going over this. And frankly, you know, I guess I'll give an aside here at this point is, you know, I know we've got a lot of new commissioners sitting around the table, but, you know, Lionel's not going to be here after, what, 3 weeks from now. And we, this past week, have spent hundreds and hundreds of dollars of Lionel Namey answering questions. And I think that's why Commissioner Palmer and Commissioner McNamara very clearly stated that really questions should come to the chair, and the chair can kind of do a central intake function for those questions. It would be like in your corporate world, Commissioner Huesman, you know, if you had 16 department heads
You have a point person.
all asking, it gets pretty unwieldy. And this week has been very unwieldy for the staff, and they have my highest praise for, you know, the amount of energy they've expended in answering questions. I hope everybody sitting around this table feels they've done as stellar a job as I do in answering those questions about, you know, closed cases versus pending cases and all that. My goal as your chair has been to convey to the community and the city council people that have repeatedly said to me, Dean, one, we want the commission to still have a local presence. We want there to be some local control, and we still want, you know, to have you find a path forward, find the dollars to retain our full-time staff person, which is what I've been working hard on trying to do. And we found that we have $80-some thousand that are discretionary dollars now to use in that regard. And it behooves me to understand why we would even consider giving up $30,500 given our limited resources that we need to hold on to, because those cases have been done, the bulk of the work has been done by this commission already with the fact-finding and the reporting. And we have, within our HUD agreement, we have contracted with HUD, and Lionel can explain this further, but there are many of those cases that HUD would not allow us to turn over to the Iowa Civil Rights Commission either, because they're at am I saying this right, Lionel? They're at an advanced stage in the process?
Well, let me just address the EOC issue, because EOC,
Is it separate?
they have, in the contracts, they have cutoff dates. I think I explained to you in my email where our contract started, cases filed after October, I can't remember what year it was. What was it, October?
2010.
Okay, 2010. So every case filed after October 2010 coming forward is part of this contract year. And so when those cases are done, and I'm talking to Amy, there will be, 11 cases left? You'll have them completed by August, what's the date?
August 30 or 31st.
Yeah, okay. Because I write
Sure.
this stuff, I can't remember everything. There are 27 cases that have been resolved thus far out of the 38, and there will be 11 which will be resolved by August 30th. When they're resolved by August 30th, then you can turn those cases into EOC for $650 a case. Now, some of these cases, if you turn them over to the Iowa Civil Rights Commission, I agree with Commissioner Devine said, they may wind up in the tank somewhere. Because if they can't collect for them, and I know this agency, I've worked with Iowa Civil Rights Commission for 40 years. I know what they're doing. If they can't collect from EEOC, they're going to dismiss those cases. And some of those cases that are still back there in our files are probable cause determinations. And so I wouldn't want, thank you, I wouldn't want the cases that are probable cause determinations to be turned back to the Iowa Civil Rights Commission, and they have to start all over again to verify that the facts are right, and then you don't get any money at all out of it because they're outdated for as far as they're turned into EOC, or they send you some minuscule amount, when in fact you've got $650 laying on the table here, you're going to be able to collect after August 30th. So that's my position on it. You know, and I've always respected the commissioners to come in and give their undivided time. They've taken out of their busy schedule to sit here and listen to the complainant and respondent and get back to us with their information. And you know, I think it's really a slap in the face to say that doesn't mean anything now. You know, we have an obligation now to get rid of these cases on the Iowa Civil Rights Commission, when in fact the Iowa Civil Rights Commission doesn't care. All they want to do is process these complaints the best way they can, and if they can't collect $650 on them, you're not gonna get a dime on it. That's facts.
Yeah, Commissioner Reese?
My concern, and I appreciate your input at the beginning of the meeting, because I hadn't looked at it quite that direct, in terms of, paying for work that's already been done once. So that was a good highlight for me. My concern is, and has been for quite some time, as most of you know, is the timeliness in which they're closed. And we haven't been successful closing cases timely, with a 3-person staff. So, 1-person staff, I'm concerned that we will extend the response even further to the complainant and the respondents. And I think we owe that to the people who we do fact-finding. And that's no disregard to any of the work that's been done in the office or around the table, but I do believe timeliness has always been an issue for us, and I'm concerned that it'll be worse, or extended, I should say. And I don't think we should head down that path.
I'd like, Lila asked first to comment. I'd like for Amy to come forth too, and
We had 100 days to do, we made 100 days. There's no backlog there. There never was when we had a contract. As it relates to the timeliness of a complaint file, we've got 3 factors that play into a case being processed. One is the intake, it's all timely. The second part of it is the investigation, which is the fact finding. That means we've got to get you folks in the room, and then we have to go out here, and Amy has a tough time doing that, and has had a tough time doing that, and getting commissioners timely into the room. Because first of all, the commissioners never set a deadline and said, okay, we need to have that fact found by thus and such a time frame, right? So, but we did get our cases down to within a year until we got into all of this turmoil, and that put us that much further behind, because we can't write up decisions and you folks doing fact finding and keep up to date, or to keep timely, if we want to use that term, when we're distracted with all of this other stuff going on. Now, I'll give you an example. You've had 3 meetings here in May to now? 3 meetings. And
well, this is the 4th since May 2nd.
Yeah, right. So that means Amy's taken away from her job and helping get the decisions out. I'm taking away from my job and helping get the cases out. As stated in the memo, those 11 cases, it'll take you up to 38, and you can collect after August 30th. Okay? So EOC gives us no deadline on getting a case done, except they won't pay you after a certain time frame. And they've paid us for every case that we've turned into them thus far. So we're not lagging behind. Now let me raise one other issue here. Beth Townsend attended a meeting of the Iowa League of Human Rights Agencies. She said she has 13 attorneys. They fired all their staff except for the administrative staff. 13 attorneys down at the state. They're gonna hire 3 more, that'll mean 17. They'll have more attorneys in that office than does any other agency that I'm aware of in the state government, except the Attorney General's office. Now, how are they handling those cases? They're doing what we call summary judgment. You send your information in, and the lawyer sits there and compiles all the information, and then they shoot it out and they say, we're gonna mediate, we want you guys to mediate. If you don't mediate, they can kick the case out the door. Now, I also learned from one of their former staff members at that meeting that they aren't as timely as she professed that they were. The old cases are still hidden in the back room. There are still cases that the local commissions are administering that they don't have a final ruling on, and therefore they don't include those in their general summary of cases to the EOC. So, our cases are no more or less timely, except for the interruptions and stuff that we have than any other agency, and not only in the state, but also at the civil rights level. But we don't have 13 attorneys.
No, and that's why, said, with no disregard to anybody's work in the office or around this table, but I do think that as an employee and as an employer, we owe a response back to these parties, right? And my concern is with the staff cut, it will be harder. Yeah.
One comment I would make about that, Commissioner Reese, is that both parties get a determination pretty quickly from us as to whether it's probable cause or no probable cause. And what I have seen, and as I've kind of researched some of these cases, once they go beyond our determination of probable cause, because it's going to go further with probable cause, then it gets mired in the attorneys representing either one or both parties. And Lionel and I have talked about this because I've been trying to keep on top of it, just to address your concern, Commissioner Reese. And that's that, you know, a lot of the length of time that clicks in then is attorneys saying, just let's slow this down because some of the witnesses will die, they'll go away, they'll move out of state and not be able to come back and testify. And so part of the legal process, once it moves beyond our probable cause determination, is attorneys that are litigating it willfully stretching out that timeline because it's a good legal maneuver. And that's what we've got in some of these cases that have aged on us.
Possibly in some of them.
Yeah, on a few of them anyway. Yeah, Commissioner Devine.
I'm just wondering, I appreciate what you're saying, Karen, and I agree. But my concern is that these cases, first of all, I'm a little puzzled as to why there's such a big deal about these, 27 cases that have already basically been done. Going forward, yes, I agree that a smaller staff is absolutely a concern and some things should go to the Iowa Civil Rights Commission. However, these being already done, if they have to go be redone, that's even more time that these folks are waiting, and then they have to be fact found again, and they have to do, I mean, it's a bunch of stuff that they have to do over, and I think that's a disservice right there to those folks.
No, I understand. I don't want to put a bigger task in front of Amy than is feasible. I think we owe it to her to give her a scope of work that is a feasible job. And quite possibly it is.
Yeah, Amy, could you come over here by Lionel and answer a couple questions for us? I don't mean to, I guess I do mean to put you on the spot, but I will much appreciate if you can help clarify a couple things for us. In this discussion, can you help clarify why it's confusing for the commissioners as to the open cases versus closed cases, and why you can't just subtract the number that we talked about from closed cases versus open cases, the fact that the open cases keep growing as we keep working?
I wish there was a simple answer to that, to explain that. Those two numbers are independent of each other. I mean, those numbers I'm pulling off a federal report. I'm not generating. Those are numbers that come off a federal report that I do in the IMS system.
Okay.
38 cases has nothing to do with the 55 cases. Cases come in, the open cases go up. Closed cases, the numbers go like this all the time. They're independent of each other. They're not interactive of each other.
And it's not a
So trying
simple
to
subtraction.
configure and play with the numbers is not gonna give you an accurate picture of what's happening. I mean, if you wanna look at that page of the report I generate, that's not a problem.
Just looking to gather some understanding of how it works.
And that's fine. I'm available every day, 40 hours a week. Be more than happy to talk. If anybody has questions.
Then the other question, I think we need some clarification for you, given Commissioner Reese's feelings, is what is your feeling, Amy, about as we move beyond those cases that, you know, I feel is important to hold on to because we've earned that $30,500 that we would lose if we sent them on down. So I guess my feeling would be let's get beyond those and talk about what is your feeling and your opinion of Commissioner Reese's comment about, do you have a feeling for the commissioners as to how we will, on intake, decide what cases might go to the Iowa Civil Rights Commission and which ones we can handle here locally?
You know, that's a tough question to answer. I mean, it's gonna be the commission's decision on what you want me to do after July 1st.
Right.
But as far as doing decisions, I mean, I agree with everything that Lionel said. We have been taken away from doing the actual work so much that it's affected our ability to write these decisions. I mean, this week, I had no time to write any, just to give you an example. I mean, if I would have had time, I could have maybe done 2 cases this week.
I have a question. Amy, okay, so after July 1st, you know, you made the comment, after July 1st, it's kind of up to the commission to give you direction on really what your duties really are. So what, again, I'm sorry about this, but going back to the cases that we need to get closed by August, so that we get the reimbursement.
Right.
If we gave you that go-ahead and that green light, can we, some type of, and I know this might be difficult, but commitment that that's going to happen with the one person staff after July, if that's the direction that we give you?
Are you asking, do you
see that as a reasonable?
11 cases will be a problem for me to do as of August 30th?
Right.
No, absolutely not.
So we can, if that's the direction that we gave you, you would feel fairly comfortable
Yes.
that you could get that done
Yes.
in the 40-hour work week that you have.
Absolutely.
I'm wondering something else. I believe in the past, if there was a log jam, have we not had one of the commissioners on a volunteer basis come in and help you write cases up? Or am I remembering that wrong? No?
I can't remember.
I'm hallucinating. Okay, never mind.
But I'm gonna be available if she needs some help on getting those decisions. Unless they bar me out of the operation, and then, you know, that's gonna be a different issue. But I don't have any problems working with her on those cases. I'm familiar with most of them that are in there, and I know how to write up a decision. Matter of fact, I've written them up from home when I was on vacation, so.
So if that becomes a problem, under the present circumstances, you'd be willing to help out with that?
But let me just phrase this, not a longer discussion. What are you folks gonna do? What are you gonna do? You've been involved in fact-finding as long as I've been with this organization. So what are you gonna do if you don't have cases? You're not gonna do anything. If you meet once a month, what are you gonna talk about? Your vacation in Hawaii, or you're getting ready to go to the casino in Las Vegas? I mean, what are you gonna talk about? You have nothing to discuss. Now, we talk about outreach and education. Who's gonna conduct outreach and education? Which one of you in here, and I'm not being pejorative when I say, which one of you in here can go out into the public arena and explain what the fair housing, fair employment, public accommodation, and the statute says as it relates to discrimination? Which one of you can do that?
Yeah.
And who is gonna be able to do it? Can you take out of your busy schedule to go out there and go before the Kiwanis and the folks that I used to visit with and hold seminars and all that sort of thing? I don't think you're gonna do it.
So let's get back to the item at hand here that Commissioner Palmer has on the floor, which is the determination of sending cases. I guess
I have some
unclear as to
comments and
intent.
things that I would like to say here. I think we've just established that the old cases will not have any impact on the commissioners themselves because they have never been involved in old cases. So when we talk about what we'll do going forward, that has no impact on this discussion. The $30,500, that's assuming that no cases will be finished before Lionel goes, and that's just not true. Lionel's gonna keep working on those, I'm sure. And so that number is way overstated. Because the other thing that we have not talked about at all here is the cost of completion. What is it gonna cost us to complete these? Now, if Amy's gonna do it all, we're paying her to do that, but we've already heard Lionel say that he'll be available and he can help us do some things, and that will come at a cost.
The cost.
And we will, now, I think I have the floor.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, please, I would like to finish my statement here. And So the other thing is, we will get $100 per case from the state for all the old cases that we turn over by the 28th of June. Now, the state has said they will do that regardless of the disposition of those cases. So if we go past the 28th of June with this, we're losing that potential reimbursement. And I think we need a fresh start. I agree with Karen. You know, it's fine to say we're going to get all these things done, but in fact, we probably aren't real current with some of what's going on here. And so I would like to say that we're going to, by the 25th of June, we're going to turn over all cases that are not completed to the Iowa Human Rights Commission, and we'll go forward from there. And I think Lionel will get a lot of those cases taken care of, Lionel and Amy, by that time.
See, Commissioner Palmer, what you just said is totally confusing based on the facts we've just heard from Amy and Lionel.
Explain how that's so.
Because you're talking about the $30,500 taking extra resources and money to produce, and we're already committed to Amy being on staff. She just stated that she can finish the cases that need to be completed by August 31st.
My point is, there's not $30,500 worth of cases, Mr. Chair, because some of those are in process and will be completed before the end of this month. I'm not suggesting that we send all the cases down there now. What I am suggesting is that anything that they do not have cleaned up by the end of this month, or the 25th, because we need time, we need to send down there and get our $100 and say thank you.
That's what you're confusing this body about.
Okay, explain to me how that's so.
Would you go ahead and clarify that again?
Yeah, let me clarify it again. Sometimes I think I don't speak English when I talk to people because they seem to understand it. Either they don't want to understand it, or I'm not clear on what I'm saying. What I just said, and I said to our commissioner over here, that the 11 cases are scheduled for August 30 to be completed. That's the contract year. So when those cases, 11 cases are completed, which they can be done easily, then Amy will turn those into EOC, and they will then credit us or send us a check for 30,000, whatever the dollars are.
$24,700.
24,700.
That's our contract.
Okay, all right. So that money is there based upon completion of 11 cases, which will be done. Now, I don't understand this rush to get the cases down to the Iowa Civil Rights Commission by the end of this month. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
So,
well, let me finish.
Go ahead.
And I think that contract that you signed with the Iowa Civil Rights Commission, I think that expired. I think so. I might be wrong on that, but I do remember reading the email from Mayor Bookmeyer where Beth Townsend said they won't have next year, 2014, out to the commissions until the middle of this month.
And
so
our
if you're going to do
contract
that,
expires June 30th.
If you're going to do that, you might as well wait till the middle of the month when you get the 2014 agreement in, and then you can set out your schedule on the cases you're going to send down there, instead of cluttering up the whole process right now. The other thing I want to mention too is if some of these complaints come back in, and they've got a pending case, and you send it out of here to the state, I'm going back to the Waterloo case again. You know, you might be faced with an action.
So what you're saying is that if we don't turn in 100% of the cases, we don't get paid anything?
No, you get paid for the case you.
Well, that's what that was my point here. I don't get where I'm being so confusing. What I'm saying is, let's do what we can do by the 25th of June, turn those cases in and get paid for them, which would be a significant part of that $30,500, and turn the rest of them, the 11 cases, which, if my math's a little slow here, but it's less than $7,000, turn those over to the state, and we get $1,100 back, so that makes the net loss there quite small. That's the way I would see that.
No, you're seeing it entirely wrong.
Okay.
Because every case we send to the Iowa Civil Rights Commission, they pay us $100.
Right, I get
and
that.
all of those that are in question here that make up this $30,500 differential that I put out in the press release is money that we will get because we're going to get $650 instead of $100.
Okay, I understand that, Mr. Chairman, but you're assuming we're not going to turn any in between now and the end of the month, and the director has said we will turn some in. That has to be subtracted off the $30,500. If we turn in 20 some, we'll get $650 a case for those 20.
You want to explain that, Amy, please? and I think, Commissioner Palmer, you're not understanding it.
And why are you angry about it?
I'm not angry, I just think.
There is anger in your voice?
I'm sorry,
You-
I
you-
apologize,
you-
Mr. Chair, my voice is deep and I do speak loud.
You are raising your voice at this meeting, just as you came into Lionel's office and raised your voice and shouted and yelled in his office.
And you're raising your voice to me, sir.
And I will tone it down. But I'll let everybody here know, including the press, that Mr. Palmer, as a commissioner, has the audacity to come into Lionel Foster's office and yell to the point where Amy had to say, "Yes, you are yelling," and the door was slammed closed.
That's not true, but.
So that's the kind of decorum we're putting up with here, which the mayor detests, who wants civility and decorum in the operations of this city. And so, Amy, would you explain for Mr. Palmer, now that he's calmed down, what he's asking about?
This is gonna be tough, because you're gonna twist it. With 30,000 involved, the number, I can't remember, do you have the email or anything, that the original press release?
I think I do somewhere here.
The FIFA contract operates on a fiscal year. The
Okay.
contract is for 38.
Okay.
That's $24,700.
Okay,
Okay?
I got that.
Then we'll get another contract. The EOC specifically tells us how many cases we can close each year. We just can't randomly shove 55 cases at them. We have contract years, they have specifics for that.
Okay,
So when we put that number out, it was originally, what, 37,500? That's just the total for 55 cases.
okay, I got that. But you do get paid for the cases you do, am I wrong about that?
Yes. Well, why would we want to get paid $100 when we can get paid
Well,
$650?
so what I said is not off track at all. What I'm saying is if we have 11 cases, we're going to lose $550 on those 11 cases. And I think we need.
No, because we're going to satisfy this contract year. That 11 is going to satisfy the contract year we're in right now.
Okay, so if you don't do 38, you don't get paid anything?
No, that's incorrect.
Well, I thought so. Okay,
We'll get paid for what we've turned in.
Exactly, that's my point exactly. I mean, I don't know how this discussion got to this point, but that's exactly what I'm saying. We'll do what we can. We'll turn in the cases that we can, and we need a fresh start July 1st. Those are my points. And if we have 11 cases left, then we'll turn those in, and we'll take a lower reimbursement on those 11 cases. And the rest of the cases, we will collect our $650.
So why would we need
Why
any
would
kind of?
why would I not satisfy the contract?
Only,
year?
Amy, because I think that the point about you being the only staff member now versus having 3 in the not too distant past is we don't want to overwhelm you. That would be our concern.
It's not an issue
Okay.
getting 11 cases done.
Okay.
It's not an issue.
She's told us that now 3 times
Okay.
during this meeting.
But she did say.
If I had to work 24 hours a day, I would get 11 cases
That's not
done.
fair to you, and I wouldn't want
Well,
you to do that.
instead of giving money away, I would certainly,
My point of question is, why would we have an action item on this issue? It's a staff-performed task, and we have an agreement with the Iowa Civil Rights Commission, which Lionel explained that with the Iowa Civil Rights Commission, it runs till June 30th, and Beth Townsend hasn't provided us for a re-upping of that. So that's the action item we'll have to take, is when and if she gets a new contract to us that would go in force July 1, we are either gonna need a special meeting to handle that prior to July 1, or we're going to have to approve the new contract with the Iowa Civil Rights Commission at our July meeting.
I think you just stated why this is time sensitive, Mr. Chairman. Because Beth Townsend has said she will take these old cases until the 28th of June, 2013. We are not scheduled to have another meeting until after that. So if we take no action at this meeting, we will, by default, have to keep those cases. That is why it's an action item. Now, what the action that the commission chooses to take is up to them. But that's why it needed to be on this agenda, because after June 28th, she will not take those old cases. The new contract will not cover those old cases, and she was very specific about that.
No, that's not right.
Well, I think it is.
Well, I don't know, I don't mean to interfere here, but I don't think you fully understand. We tried to explain it to you, Commissioner Palmer. But I don't know what.
Why is the last?
Excuse me,
Well,
Mr.
I think I do fully understand, and I think we're not necessarily.
What is the urgency outside of the mayor pushing,
I thought I
besides
just
the mayor
tried to-
pushing you guys to get these cases out of here and down to the state?
I just
What
tried
is the other
to, I
urgency?
tried to explain that, and
And we've
I'll say it
explained
one
why
more
it isn't a
time.
practical idea.
Because they won't take them after the 28th.
Yeah, they'll take them anytime.
Okay,
They'll take them anytime.
She's told
okay,
me.
then I'm mistaken, and I apologize.
She's told me she'll take them anytime.
The old cases she'll take any time.
She'll take any
Okay,
case we turn over.
that should be on the transcript, I want that recorded. As she has told other people something
It's a
besides
bait and
that.
switch.
Okay, whatever.
And I have full confidence from the staff. Amy has been sitting with me this past couple of weeks saying that she has a schedule in place to process these cases and get us to where we need to be by the end of August. And why we would give up any or one of those cases when we are desperate for funds and conserving our monies, my whole philosophy here is, why would we give up one case to the Iowa Civil Rights Commission that Amy can do under her daily duties and give up that $500 or $550 because she's going to take care of those at no additional expense to the commission or any impact on our budget that we've been narrowed down to. So I think it's really an egregious thing that you would put us at risk by asking us to forego that money for the citizens of Mason City and the taxpayers that have entrusted us to conserve their dollars.
Okay. Well, that's your opinion.
It is my opinion. And so, do we still have a motion and a second on the floor to try to solve this by some other way other than letting the staff do their job? Okay, hearing no further discussion, and we will move on to E, because we need to get to the discussion of Amy's performance review, which is, and Lionel's, right, which is what you.
Mr. Chair, I would make a motion that this be postponed to the July meeting for discussion in the interest of time.
Okay. D and E, or just E?
E.
E? Okay.
What is E?
E is create a subcommittee to maintain intake functions and prepare outreach and education program. So I'm willing to defer that to the July meeting. We have a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Commissioner Palmer. Any further discussion? The motion is to postpone item E, create a subcommittee to maintain intake functions and prepare an outreach and education program that is funded with the remaining HUD and EEOC funds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried unanimously. Okay, that takes us to F, which is the approval of Amy Simpson's position for fiscal year 2013-2014. I have Amy's performance review. I want to say I have it in hand. I had it in hand yesterday. Lionel did Amy's annual performance review, and I think the recommendation would be by the director, having observed her performance the past year, she had an excellent review, and I would recommend that we, around this board, tell Amy what a good job we think she's done.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner McNamara.
I believe this is just reaffirming an item that we took care of back in, I believe, April. No, it couldn't have been April, it had to be March, saying that we would do everything possible to maintain our position as a full-time employee through 2014.
Right.
So I would certainly, I think I moved that in that meeting. I'd certainly be willing to move that again in this meeting, so moved. Approval, Amy Simpson's position for fiscal year 2013-14.
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner McNamara, seconded by Commissioner Devine, to approve Amy Simpson's full-time employment for fiscal year 2013-2014. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, that takes us to,
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, could you also consider a motion that she will be paid from the city appropriation as well as the federal funds that you have available, so that there's clarity when it gets down to the finance department?
all of the good recommendations.
Well, I don't have any issue with that, but won't we need to figure out what other operating expenses potentially are in terms of maintaining the office itself, so we know what funds are available and where they're coming from?
Well, you have the city funds, you have the EOC funds, and you have the HUD funds. Okay, so when you're moving from one fiscal year to the next fiscal year, your budget is going to be set. So when you get into the next fiscal year, you should be able to identify where that money is going to come from to pay her salary. And so I would want her to get into July the 1st, and they say, well, where's the money? You know, you haven't identified it. And that's my point. So, you know, you may want to, I'd appreciate if you make a motion on that, and if the chair wants to go down and talk to the finance department and find out how we can do that, how it's supposed to be done according to finance policy, then you can set it up for July for a vote on it.
Based on the conversation when Mr. Jacobson was here, and he explained it to us, on a 40-hour work week, if she spent 20 hours on EEOC, that would come out of, I believe he then said that bucket, and then the other 20 hours would come out of the city. So I would be willing to make a motion that, based on the appropriate time spent, that Ms. Simpson's pay is allocated from the available resources of either HUD, city, or EEOC funds.
I would second that.
Okay, moved by Commissioner Dodge. You want to restate that again? And seconded by Commissioner McNamara. And if you'll restate the motion, then it'll be clear for everybody.
I move that Mrs. Simpson's pay is allocated appropriately out of either the EEOC, HUD, or the city funding is appropriate for the time spent.
Okay. Any questions or further discussion?
I have a question.
Amy,
you're, in your current role, you're busy, obviously. I mean, and the concern that you weren't able to, you know, have any time to work on the cases this week is of concern for your schedule. Let's say we get through August or September with all these, which I don't understand, these 11 cases or 28 cases and 30,000 and 24,000. Let's say we get there. And let's say the commission says at that time, just says, okay, now, since we've got all this done, we're gonna take a more aggressive look at going to Des Moines, at intake and transition. Is there enough in intake and transition to keep you busy?
That's a tough question to answer. We're gonna have to see what happens.
Well, I know you're busy now.
I mean,
So I know you're busy now. And so in looking at the future, if we were to say, we're gonna get through all these next couple months or whatever, and these cases that we've already paid in our new EEOC contract, but then at that point, if this group took a more aggressive look at transferring cases to Des Moines, will there be enough for you to do?
it's hard for me to, I don't know what's gonna happen. You're asking me to look into the future.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to speculate.
Well, and I'm just trying to speculate myself into a scenario of what we want,
Because one thing that has happened, Commissioner Stanton, is that because of a lot of the press and publicity, there are some people in the community who think that the Human Rights Commission is down and not operating. And so there's been some drop off in calls since that has been the case. And so it's hard for us to know, you know, in the next 2 or 3 months, if the word will continue to get out that we're still doing intake and what that volume will be, but we're in a real state of flux as to knowing what our intake volume will be. Would that be a
Thank you.
good way
Yeah.
to put it?
Well, it's, as far as public perception with all the comments and all the press and everything like this, I think there are some people that think we're dysfunctional.
That we're what?
Dysfunctional. And why I would volunteer to join something like that, but I was just looking at it like everything else. From what I've read, money went from here to here. You know, this went from here to here. It's like other changes that we've seen in our community. Economic development went to North Iowa Economic Corridor. The CVB went to visit Mason City, back with the city, and we've seen these transitioning things. And so I kind of looked at this, knowing that the icon was going out as an opportunity for transition. And so I guess I would just like to be able to drill down a little bit, whether it's, and I don't want to come to Amy's office and take time away from her, but drill down a little bit on some of these budgets and how this works and get us informed, so maybe we could all at least sing out of the same hymnal, you know what I mean? So if somebody in the public would ask us something, we would all be saying it's similar to the same answer, because in my first meeting, we've had a lot of, you're wrong, you're right, you're wrong, we're right, which says to me, we all don't understand it. We have people that don't understand it, and I certainly don't, so I think some education for the commissioners might be a good thing to bring us to speed during this transition. And I'd like, Amy, if you could, just to think a little bit about your workload in the future if we took a little more aggressive stand at moving cases to the state.
Which brings me to another point, that we need new commissioner binders for our new commissioner, Stanton. And I don't know, Commissioner Van Zomer, you have yours, since you were formerly our friend. You have yours? Okay, so we need a new commissioner binder. And there would be a lot, this is what it is, Commissioner Stanton.
Yeah, okay,
It's
that's fine.
And you'll be able to spend hours.
Could I just throw in a comment?
Sure.
Okay. The reason it sounds like we're dysfunctional is because we are. And the reason because you're dysfunctional, and that's not a pejorative, is because we've got so many new members on this commission. In the past, we worked people in as friends. As Commissioner Jackie talked with about when they did my performance evaluation, she said it takes you 3 years to really get it in your head what this whole operation is about, and it really does. It really does. And over the years that I have been working with individuals and commissioners as a whole, is the fact that when you come in, it's a brand new ball game, and it's not easy. It took me a long time to understand what the whole system was about. So having this many new members in here at once, everyone is confused because they're trying to grab it real quick and run with it, and you just can't grab it real quick and run with it. You've got to really get in there and dig in, as you were saying. But I appreciate
So the new commissioners are a little bit of a pain in the butt.
No, they're not. No, they're not. No, I'm glad you're here.
So I would ask the commission members, how do you want to handle the report on Director Foster's performance review, since Commissioner
You have
Eastman
voted
had
on
the
the motion for Amy?
Oh, yeah, take me back to where we were.
Did you vote?
Yeah, it was all, it carried.
Yeah, that carried unanimously.
All right, sorry.
We were on committee report, and then we have our non-action items yet to do, correct? That we moved to the bottom, which is the chair report, and I think I've covered that as we came up with the other items that was going to be on my report. That were on the amended agenda with the actionable items. So that takes us to the director's performance review. In light of Commissioner Huesman not being here, do you want to comment on that? Since
You know, I really had a friend, Gaines, she worked up with that. As a matter of fact, our two members who just left were the ones along
Oh, Commissioner,
Kathy Gaines.
former Commissioner.
Right, who did the review.
Gaines, who is now a friend of the commission.
Uh,
So, could we have the friend of the commission, Kathy Gaines, come forward and maybe just finish that up for us before we adjourn, so we can get that taken care of before the
Certainly.
next meeting?
I don't have the actual evaluation with me, but we found that Director Foster was compliant and met all expectations. We had one area that we saw, we had goals to make some changes, but with the timing, there's not gonna be enough time to make those goal changes. So other than that, and we had one area that he exceeded in his knowledge and what he has done for the city and the commission over the years. So we found that the evaluation was taken care of. The city uses, I believe, 11 different areas to review, and in all of those areas, he exceeded, met those goals, or, as I said, the one area we saw there were some goals to make for him for changing. But since we don't have time for that change to take place since the budget changes, unfortunately, Mr. Foster, you're not gonna have time to do that one, which had to do with getting our cases taken care of. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and let's talk about our next meeting date then. The next regular meeting will be